Before we jump into this week's video, a quick note. This video is one that I've been working on for a little while now, and I was not expecting the two most recent patches that came out to have some pretty significant Ogryn buffs both to his character and to his weapons. I was able to alter the script slightly to account for the first patch, but the blessings of the Omnissiah patch added even more that makes certain parts of this week's video outdated and less relevant than they were previously. I decided not to completely scrap this video, A, because I genuinely believe the overarching main point of the video still rings true, and B, videos take a long time to make, and I don't want to just scrap weeks worth of work and be left with nothing for this week. As I mentioned previously, I still stand by the main message of this video. It's just that some of the little things and the little nuances I said here and there may not ring as true as they once were. Out of the four classes present in Darktide, Veteran and Zealot are the most popular choices among players, while Psyker and Ogryn are the least. Up until this point, you could have made an argument for either of these two to be the least played class, but with the recent buffs to Psyker that made them more popular, that title now officially goes to the Ogryn. The question is, though, why is Ogryn the least popular class? Is it a flaw of the character itself that Fatshark needs to address, or could it be something more? Let's talk about it. Every character in Darktide stands out pretty distinctly from one another. Each class has a unique feel and playstyle to them, which, if you had to describe in one sentence or less, would sound something like this. Veteran is your stereotypical FPS character, Zealot is a nimble powerhouse, Psyker is a space wizard, and Ogryn is a big, strong dude. All of these descriptions cater to different kinds of players. People who like FPS games in general and people new to the Tide games will pick Veteran as it makes the game most like your typical FPS, which to the latter group serves as a kind of comfort pick. Zealot attracts people who want to be a melee powerhouse with high mobility and survivability, and Psyker will attract people who want to be a badass space wizard flinging lightning everywhere. That just leaves the Ogryn, who in isolation sounds cool as a big, strong dude who knocks things around, but when you put him up against the other characters in the game, he admittedly sounds less appealing than the rest. But what about their kits? Let's compare Zealot and Ogryn since they are the most similar to one another. Zealot and Ogryn both fill similar roles, but strangely enough, Zealot has a few more tools than Ogryn does in regards to tankiness and survivability, which makes Zealot overall more reliable in gameplay. The problem isn't that Ogryn is lacking in survivability, mind you, as he has some useful tools that genuinely do help him survive and contribute to the team, but when you compare him to Zealot with their extra survivability and speed, the latter of which Ogryn does not have, Ogryn appears to be a weaker class. This is essentially the Battle Wizard versus Pyro problem that Vermintide has. In isolation, Pyromancer is not a bad character and brings some interesting things to the table, but when you place her up against Battle Wizard, she simply pales in comparison. To be fair, this problem isn't an exact one-to-one, as Battle Wizard is stupidly overpowered while Zealot is not, and I believe that there is more of a reason to play Ogryn over Zealot than there is to play Pyro over Battle Wiz, but I have heard the comparison come up once or twice in discussion. Something else you have to consider, though, is how the class plays compared to the other on a macro versus micro level. For reference, micro-level gameplay refers to gameplay directly related to your character. Weapon choices, builds, feats, attack patterns and combos, ults, and ways to use all of these things to maximize your contributions to the team. Macro gameplay relates to how you interact with your team and the enemies around you when using your micro gameplay. Do you focus on special sniping, elite killing, horde control, boss damage, being a flex, and so on? When compared to Zealot, the micro gameplay of Ogryn feels fairly similar, as you're just trading speed and mobility for harder hitting attacks that stagger more, which is no problem. Their macro gameplay is very different, however, as when you break them down to their very basics, Zealot is an aggressive melee damage dealer, while Ogryn is a unique type of support which I will call an enabler. He trades some killing power and mobility for hard crowd control, which enables his team to do their jobs much easier, and when it comes to these types of enablers in games, or supports if you will, they have a common tendency to be the least popular choice. And for the record, this is coming from a D&D Cleric main, an ex-Overwatch Mercy main, and an Elder Scrolls Online Final Fantasy XIV healer main. Anyway, the question that people sometimes ask in regards to playing Ogryn is, why would I want to stagger enemies and knock them around when I could just kill them? If you try to answer this question strictly from a mechanics point of view, then there are many good and objectively correct answers in defensive stagger. Buying time for people to reload/quell, buying time for your backline to kill specials, preventing your team from becoming overwhelmed, etc., etc. If you try to answer this from the point of view of a player who may find it more fun to kill enemies rather than staggering them though, then there is really no good answer to the question. Not because stagger is bad or useless, but because everyone finds different things enjoyable. Not everyone is going to find every single game, character, or style of play enjoyable. One of my mods for Twitch and Discord one-trick Psyker and thinks Zealot is miserable to play, for instance, and there is nothing wrong with that. The few most recent patches have brought some much-needed love to both Ogryn and his weapons, which will go a long way in helping him feel better to play overall, but truth be told, I think Ogryn and, to some extent, Psyker will always be the less popular options among players. This is because their main job in a team is not to do damage, but rather to enable the rest of their team to deal damage through the use of their character kits. Before anyone takes what I say out of context, no, I'm not saying Ogryn and Psyker have low damage outputs or just suck at dealing damage. What I'm saying is that both of these classes have a lot more to their kits than just damage, and in order to play them to their max effectiveness, you have to do more than just dealing damage. This, in turn, will make them less popular to play since they have to focus on more than just simply killing and dealing damage, which also means that they are more complex to play overall. All in all, do I think Ogryn could use some buffs to help him feel better to play? Absolutely. But I also think that Ogryn is a unique type of class that won't appeal to everyone, and that's quite alright. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe for more Darktide content in the future. See y'all next time.